things are afoot in the National Hockey League, specifically as it pertains to Dylan Larkin. It's time for our Detroit Red Wings Trade Center, spelled CENTRE, news aggregate update. All right, we start with an update. Pierre LeBrun of The Athletic reporting that Wings GM Steve Yzerman went back to Pat Brisson, the agent for Dylan Larkin, and asked him to expand their original list of 3 teams. And LeBrun is reporting that his sense is that Brisson was receptive to that to some degree. New teams have emerged. One is Anaheim. And according to The Athletic's Max Bultman and Shayna Goodman, the first obvious name, they write, is Mason McTavish, the Ducks' 23-year-old center who stalled a bit in Anaheim. Could the Red Wings unlock the 2021 number 3 draft pick with a change of scenery? Scott, how do you feel about Mason McTavish?
Well, the thing with McTavish is that he is young. He's 23. I think he's signed as well is he signed for a little bit here? Being that he was such a high pick, you feel like there's an awful lot of upside left here. He has yet to reach that full potential. His career high in points is 52 from the 24-25 season. Last year it dropped down to 41, and he was minus 15 last year. It doesn't scream like that's a Red Wing player or a Steve Yzerman type player. You want the two-way guy. And if he was minus 15 this past year, minus 23 and minus 19 a few years before, I'm not sure if I want to, roll the dice on Mason McTavish. Now, do the Ducks have some prospects? Well, that's a whole other story if that makes sense that they can get one of their top prospects. But they do have several players that are better than point a game in their system, including one in Maxime Massé, who played with the Quebec Junior League, 102 points in 63 games.
So McTavish is under contract for 5 more years at $7 million per. He obviously is a highly skilled player that got that kind of contract for a reason. But I think the only way this goes down is if McTavish was a player that Yzerman loved as a prospect and believed in and has believed in for a long time, regardless of his production and his plus minus at the NHL level. But I don't see a match for McTavish necessarily. All right, another team that could emerge is Utah. Now, Utah is loaded. And I got to tell you, when you take a look at their prospects, and everyone says you can't get these guys, but Caleb Denwaye and defenseman Dmitry Simashev, some people think top 10 prospects in all of hockey. Then there's Tej Aginla, who's a player. And there's also a player that I like that's already at the NHL level, JJ Peterka, who's 24 years old, had a down year, but had 68 points 2 seasons ago. Aginla, Gator, top 10 prospect in some circles. Denwaye, he seems to be a do everything, and everyone says you can't get him. And I'm like, all right, Utah might also have interest in Sebastian Cossa. Can you get Denwaye if you throw in Cossa? Can you put together a package that way?
Well, you might be able to. I mean, the Mammoth have lots of prospects. Tej Aginla is a guy, obviously, he's Jerome Aginla's kid. He plays a little bit of an edge as well. His numbers playing in the WHL last year were fantastic. He had 90 points in 48 games, was plus 47. So that looks good too. But this is a guy that was talked about during the draft recently, and I remember following that whole draft and talking very, very highly of him. And obviously the pedigree is there. I think the Mammoth have a package of players that they're prospects, right? So we don't really know, but the prospects with high end. If they want to get Dylan Larkin, they're going to have to pay for it. And I could see something working out here with these two teams.
Now, I want to send a direct message to Dylan at this point, given all those prospects at Utah. Dylan, Salt Lake is a beautiful city. It's right in the mountains. It's scenic. It's picturesque. If you like winter sports, it's they hosted an Olympics, man.
Yeah, but do you think that Utah is on that list?
It's a beautiful city, Scott. It's a beautiful, beautiful city.
Yeah, it is. How's the nightlife?
It's a beautiful city. Park City's right there. I would imagine that Park City, the nightlife is pretty good.
Yeah.
Next up, Sean Shapiro of Elite Prospect says Dallas has checked in on Larkin. Quote, Jim Nill also tends to check in on everything, so that's not surprising. look at it this way. Robertson's extension is a priority, but Nil always has been big on having a backup plan lined up too. What do you make of a possibility of a trade partner with Dallas?
Well, I love Jason Robertson as a player. I would love to see if they're going to try to hang on to him. They should try to hang on to him. But if they're unable to, that's my whole plan is to go get Jason Robertson and convince Dylan Larkin to stick around. As far as the system that Dallas has, they've got a couple of players that might be of interest, but I don't know if they're the high end prospects. And Dallas has made some moves over the last couple of years to acquire players, and they've lost some assets. So I'm not sure if they're going to have the total package of players. I don't think this is where I'm going to send Dylan Larkin, but I'm looking at Dallas because I want Jason Robertson.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if there's something that they can do to end up with Jason Robertson. Because honestly, if they free up, if they move on from Larkin, but get a 26-year-old who's a 100-point guy from Northville, Michigan, that feels like a winning off season to me. And yeah, your idea of keeping them both is sure fantastic. However, that seems unlikely. But if in any way they can get in with Jason Robertson and get him to listen to a restricted free agent offer, I would. I
mean, my God, there's just so much to like with him, and I'm not sure why Dallas is really in this bind. I mean, this is a guy you keep. There's no question this is a guy you keep for the future. He's been a 40-goal scorer 3 times in his career. He's hit 100 points once already. He finished up with 96 this past year. He's an outstanding player. Why would you not give him the bank that he deserves? Go ahead and sign this guy. But restricted free agent, he's 26 years old. I don't have any problem giving up draft capital and prospects to go ahead and get it if that's what it is with the restricted free agent contract.
Next up, according to NHL Network's David Pagnotta, Philly has interest in Dylan Larkin. Now, the Athletics' Kevin Karsch pointed out that Porter Martone and Tyson Forrester are 2 untouchables in Philadelphia. Owen Tippett could be a hard sell too, but he could be part of the return if Detroit wants to move right now contributors. What do you make of a possibility of a trade with Philly?
Well, I think it's interesting that this comes with the caveats these guys are untouchable and they just joined the team. I'm sorry. If for me, if Porter Martone is untouchable, then I'm probably not talking to Philadelphia all that long. I think he's exactly what the Red Wings need. He's a young player, tons of upside, puts the puck in the net, and also sticks up for himself. He likes to hit. He's exactly what the Red Wings need. I would love to find a way to make that work. Does Philadelphia want a goaltender to go with? I mean, I would absolutely have to have a deal done with Porter Martone as part of it. If not, I'm not likely to deal with the Flyers.
Yeah, I'm kind of in a don't bother calling Philly if you're not going to move on from Porter Martone. Here's the thing about Porter Martone. Talk about a guy who gets a puck on net. In his first 2 games, he had 14 shots. His second game at the NHL level was against Detroit. He had 9 shots in that game against the Red Wings. They saw him a second time where he had a goal and an assist. The Red Wings got to see him play up close and personal, and obviously, if they wanted, they had a chance to see him at Michigan State. I think if I'm talking with Philly, I tell Philly, fine, we'll send him to Pittsburgh. Like, if you don't want him, we'll send him to Pittsburgh. Now, will you reconsider moving on from Porter Martone? And at some point, like, I feel like teams want to give up less than market value to get Dylan Larkin. And because he's under contract, I just don't think there's any way that the Red Wings are going to get a lowball offer or take a lowball offer for Dylan Larkin.
That's the thing. With Larkin, it's all about the value. That contract is fantastic for teams to take on. It's not that cumbersome when you're getting a number 1 or number 2 center in Dylan Larkin. You're getting a guy who is a proven 30-goal scorer, who plays both ways, which is something that not a whole lot of centers do. He's got lots of value. I know here in Detroit, people have soured on him, and now they're really soured on him because he's asked for the trade. But 5 straight years of 30 goals, 6 years total where he's scored 30 goals or more. That's impressive. Dylan Larkin's a really good player. And look, if Philadelphia is just going to kick the tires and then take away their top players in return in terms of prospects, then okay, thanks but no thanks. We'll move on and find somebody else. There are going to be, I think this list is going to get expanded by the day. It's going to have to keep expanding because it's just, they're going to find out that there's a lot of interest in Dylan Larkin. And it's also good for Dylan because you know what? It's not just these three or handful of teams. Can you imagine the pitches that these teams are trying to make to acquire him? Like, hey, we got perks. We'll help you out. Really? You don't want to play in Southern California? Dude.
And Salt Lake is a beautiful city.
Salt Lake, it's a beautiful city.
There it is. That concludes our Detroit Red Wing Trade Center, Dylan Larkin, Sebastian Cosa news aggregate update. The list of teams apparently expanding that Dylan Larkin would accept a trade to. It's Karsch and Anderson here on 97.1.